Ladies and gentlemen of Hashtag Nation, thank you for joining us tonight on a very special broadcast. To my immediate left, I have Ryan Lasal of RocSportsNetwork joining us to give us his preview of the Buffalo Bills New York Giants game and to talk a little bit about what the heck is going on in New York with the water. It's pretty crazy. Don't fear not, though. I also brought Paul with me. He's also here, unfortunately. But that notwithstanding. You can follow Ryan. His Twitter handle is right under his fabulous photo right there. So we're going to pick his brain a little bit about the New York Giants and everything else. So first off, Ryan, how you doing tonight, bud?
I'm doing great. Always fun to join the hashtag, guys. So appreciate you having me.
And I guess because we have to, Paul, how you doing?
At least I don't look like Morpheus. Get those things
off. Fair point.
Good grief.
Hey, the Bills' future's so bright. I gotta wear shades, man. I gotta wear shades.
God.
That's
Here
how
we
it
go.
works. So right out of the gate, Ryan, let me ask you right now: are the Bills going to be successful this weekend if no Barkley touches the field on either side?
Well, I mean, I think they're going to be successful even if the Barkley wearing blue touches the field. I mean, I think the way they played against the Jets, if Allen doesn't turn the ball over, I don't think there's a reason that the Bills shouldn't run away with this game. And the Giants looked pretty god-awful against the Cowboys. Saquon Barkley, as expected, really their only source of offense. Sterling Shepard, who I think a lot of people thought might turn into some type of a decent wide receiver, he's now hurt. So it's really Evan Ingram and whether Eli Manning, it looks like Peyton Manning these days, but whether Eli Manning can get him the ball or not is another thing to be seen. I mean, you got to shut down Barkley. So, I mean, you come in with a game plan similar to what you did against the Jets, which is shut down the running back against a team that's not as good as the Jets were. And I think they can get things done. Again, if Allen just takes care of the football, I don't think this is a game that the Bills really are going to have to stress too much about.
Yeah, you look at Barkley. I guess he only had like 16 or 17 touches, and the Giants are going to be working on that all week to try to get him more touches. And don't try to kid me, Ryan. I know you said Peyton Manning because you saw my forehead. Don't try to fool me, buddy.
It is distracting, that's for sure.
So, Paul, response or addition to what Ryan just said?
Yeah, I mean, the Giants are in a bad spot, right? Because Sterling Shepard is still, in concussion protocol, so they're, he's kind of in doubt. Cody Latimer left drills today, so he's kind of in doubt. He's their number 2. And all in all, it's just not a great football team. Like, they are really, like Peyton or Eli Manning. Jeez, it is.
See, I got you doing it now.
Oh my God, it's that forehead. It's the glare. It's blinding.
I hate you both.
And I mean, Eli could go out there every week and throw 400, and they still might not score 20 points. This is just not a very good football team, top to bottom. And the defense is. I said in our episode that we cut on Tuesday, kind of talking about what the Bills needed to do, and if you can establish the run against this Giants defense, the pass is going to be wide open because they are just not good. If you can get the run going early, then the rest of this game should be pretty simple. But we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just worried a little bit about if the Buffalo, we know that games in the NFL are really hard to win. I mean, any given Sunday, any team can win. We always know that, and we've seen that plenty of times. Ryan, is there a case where the Bills win this game, but like if they beat the Giants by like less than 10 or less than, do you have a number in mind? Like if they beat the Giants by a certain number that you're kind of like, okay, we beat a Jets team that is just crumbling right now, and then if we beat the Giants by not kind of like not like the Cowboys beat them, is this time for us to worry as Bills fans?
No, I mean, I think you can talk about the Jets, and we kind of got to the Jets before they started crumbling. That the Bills prompted the crumble, I think, is kind of what's gone on. The Giants, I mean, if you don't beat them by a touchdown, I think is going to be a little bit of a disappointment. But I mean, ultimately, to your point, I mean, any given Sunday, they've got the best running back in the NFL. They've got a top 4 tight end in in Evan Ingram. and again, it depends on how the offense plays. I mean, the defense is going to be there. And Mario, I talked on your guys' show a couple weeks back about, what the expectation should be on this offense. And I said, if this team offensively is in the teens when it comes to the bye week, I think that's going to be a successful start to the season. They're right there after the first game, even with 4 turnovers. If they come out, they take care of the football and they move it like they did against the Jets minus the turnovers. I mean, I don't think that they're going to struggle too much. But again, if they, I guess it depends on how they win the football game. But anything more than a touchdown differential, I think, is, to be expected. And I think this team expects to go in and just kind of run away and hide on the Giants while the Giants try to play catch up with a guy in Eli Manning who just can't get the ball downfield anymore like he used to.
Now, do you say Barkley's the best back in the league because he's on your fantasy team, or you just believe that?
No, I mean, I've got a sampling of all the best backs in the league, but I think Saquon Barkley's hands down the best of all of them. I mean, I've got some Zeke, I've got some Kamara, I've got, all of them, but I think Barkley is by far, and I don't think it's close right now, that he's the best running back in the NFL.
Oh, he's amazing.
Full transparency, you named one of your teams after
I sure did. I absolutely did. Saquon UC. That's, Saquon Barkley, man. He's, if you don't get him in fantasy and you number 1 pick, then you probably shouldn't be playing fantasy football. It's just as easy as that.
I have 2 words for you. Will Lutz.
Yeah, well, he's got a first-round pick, though.
No, he's not. No. But I couldn't believe how that game ended, which I mean, that game was amazing. I mean, that could have been Super Bowl-ish, how good that game was. But, Paul, on the defensive side of the ball, you were talking about the Giants, okay? Is there any one guy that you're seeing that the Bills have to worry about or have to be really concerned about as opposed to what they did with the Jets?
Well, this will be the first time that we're really seeing a tight end, right? Because the Jets don't have one that you need to be concerned about. So this will be the first time the linebacking group is really hampered with having to deal with a very good receiving tight end in Evan Ingram. I'm a huge fan of Evan Ingram. Last year was a little bit of a down year, but he's not your prototypical tight end. He's not super big, right? But he is a definitive receiving threat. That is what he's there to do. He's there to hurt you he's there to hurt you downfield, and he's a dangerous weapon, man. So I'm a big fan of Evan Ingram, and this was something that the Bills have always been haunted by inside this division was tight end play, right? So it'll be nice to see how this defense responds to having to deal with a really dynamic tight end. It's one thing we haven't seen yet. So that's what I'm really excited about. Because you can cheat on Saquon all day. Unfortunately, that's just going to open up the middle of the field for Ingram. So we'll see what happens. That's probably what I'm worried about. What about you, Mark? What do you think coming into this game?
I mean, you just named the 2 weapons that they have right now. Whereas you'd have to worry about the middle of the field with Crowder with the Jets, you got to worry about the middle of the field with Ingram now, who's a much bigger target, like you said. Everything you said about Ingram, the guy is, he's a heck of a player. And with Barkley, you're coming in
his prime is what he is.
I would agree with that 100%. I mean, he's an amazing wideout, and you're looking at Eli coming in versus Darnold last week. I'm trying to make comparisons to the Jets, and I know that seems a little bit unfair, but just that's all the kind of stuff that we have to go on right now. And we just had somebody in the chat come in, William Lang. He said Tremaine should just worry about Barkley and let Milano cover. We have seen Milano in the past. I mean, he covered Gronkowski a few games, and he didn't do bad against them. I mean, and the schemes that I think Frazier is set to impose. Paul had brought this up on the broadcast on Tuesday, in that you have pretty much all of this defense back with the exception of Kyle Williams, and you insert Ed Oliver there. So teams have 17 games to scout this defense, and we saw very different things from Leslie Frazier last Sunday. He was blitzing a lot more. He was more aggressive. He mixed guys in and out. The one thing I want to ask you, Ryan, was very interesting was Lorenzo Alexander. He only played 26 snaps out of 71 defensive snaps, totaling about 37%. And I think Paul and I tried doing a little bit of math before the broadcast. We tried saying, man, maybe he played close to half of those with his hand in the dirt playing defensive tackle. What do you see more of that stuff from Frazier coming out, where there's going to be looks that not so much he's reinventing the wheel, but he's throwing new looks at teams because there is such a very long history of 17 games to scout and try to find weaknesses in this Bills defense.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the defense has gotten stronger in the offseason than it was last year, even. You've got, again, a healthy Trent Murphy. I think Ed Oliver brings a dimension to the defensive line that Kyle Williams never brought. That's, a pure penetrating, quick defensive tackle. Tremaine Edmonds is a year older. You've got Matt Milano back. Your secondary, I think, is arguably better than it was last year. And it just lets you allow guys to do what they do best. And with Lorenzo Alexander, what does he do best? He rushes the passer. And, if he feels more comfortable doing that with his hand in the dirt, at the defensive tackle position where they can kind of move the rest of those guys around on the defensive line, then I think that it makes sense to do that. It's a look that, it's a look you haven't seen yet from the Bills is Lorenzo Alexander there. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he took the majority of his snaps at the outside linebacker position this week because, one thing you have to do consistently in the NFL is keep coaches on their toes. I mean, Bill Belichick has made an entire career of coming out in a completely different look one week than he was the week before. So I think you've got to find creative ways to do that. And one thing actually I want to ask Paul about is what's your thought on, one thing that we saw with the Buffalo Bills and one of the ways they tried to handle Rob Gronkowski was he got a heavy dose of Trey White during the times that they played against each other. What are your thoughts on the defense just trying to match up White on Ingram and kind of letting that matchup play out and see what you can do flexibility-wise with the rest of this offense? It doesn't really have many weapons as long as you can control Saquon. Let Trey White deal with Evan Ingram and kind of let somebody else beat you.
Yeah. So if we were taking this question last year, I would have told you that Trey isn't going to be. You're not going to see Trey on Ingram, right? After just what I saw last week, you saw Trey moving on Crowder. Once Crowder had reception number 10, and Frazier's like, "Oh, we got to do something about this." So he put Trey on Crowder. Trey can play physical enough to stay with Ingram because Ingram isn't massively huge at the tight end position. So he's not going to get outsized, right? It's not that big a deal because Trey's not a small guy, but I think Ingram's not a big guy, so it works out just fine. And plus, if you're having Sterling Shepard and Cody Latimer out, I mean, you're having guys who you've never heard of start at wide receiver for you. So you're not really super nervous about that. I am a little concerned, and I know Mario had mentioned this to me off air. I didn't know it. Mario, can you tell me what's up with Levi Wallace?
Yeah, I mean, Levi Wallace, there was a tape today about just him in practice. I guess he kind of tweaked his ankle. Actually, I'll throw that over. I just saw it really quick on Twitter. I'll throw it over to the RocSportsNetwork Ryan Lasal to give us his report on that.
Yeah, so John Scott actually on Twitter tweeted out from Spectrum News. He tweeted out that it looked like Levi Wallace was going into the trainer's facility with a pretty heavy limp on him coming out of practice today. So, that's obviously big with him being the opposite of Trey White on this defense. That means Kevin Johnson probably next man up if Levi Wallace can't go, which obviously changes the defensive scheme a little bit with the defense. I think, if it was any position other than cornerback, I probably would be a little bit more concerned than I am. I mean, one thing that Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier have seemed to be able to do is find success at the cornerback position, regardless of which guy they decide to put in there. It just obviously you lose a little bit of flexibility. You lose the ability to move Johnson inside, give Levi a blow, or give Johnson a blow if they need one. But I mean, it's something worth monitoring. The good thing is it's Thursday. There's plenty of time for him to rest it over the next couple of days. It's not a long trip to New York, so it's not anything where he's going to have a ton of altitude issues if he's flying, where you've got to worry about the swelling. And it's probably a tape, a shot in the ankle, and chances are he's going to be good to go. He's probably just not going to see the type of volume that he saw against the Jets, which, is obviously something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, now, Ryan, with the talent and ability that Saquon brings to the lineup and the limited weapons that, admittedly that the Giants have, do you think there could be a scenario where, Paul's scenario plays out or, about Tre'Davious White and Tre'Davious White going on Evan Ingram and probably manning him up? So do you think there's a possible scenario that Saquon sees more time out on the wing or as a receiving like in the slot or something, if they put Ingram and Barkley in the slot on opposite sides to try to, try to maximize if Levi Wallace injury is more than we think it is.
I think the great thing about the Bills' schedule this year is they probably couldn't have played a better running back right before they play Saquon in playing Le'Veon Bell, because I think they're very similar in terms of the way that their teams try to use them. You go back and you watch that game, and it was something that I noted during the first watch and again during the second watch. Le'Veon Bell seemed like he did way more than what his stat line showed.
Oh, yeah.
By the end of the game, it seemed like every time he touched the ball, it was like 6-7 yards. And you look at his average yards per carry, and he was under 4 yards a carry, because he had a couple plays where it was chunk yardage, and that hurts you a little bit. But ultimately, if you can contain Barkley in the same method that you can contain Bell, again, I don't think that this is a game that gets too out of hand, and it's one that the Bills can probably Bell if he's there that's going to be able to keep him in the catch. And the thing they didn't do against Bell that they're going to have to do against Barkley, because he's a more physical version, they're going to have to tackle. I mean, they had some issues trying to bring Bell down, specifically in the box, where he just kind of slipped the arm tackles and things like that. And that can't happen against Barkley, because he's a home run threat. If he gets out into the open and gets, a guy like Hyde in one-on-one out in the open, that's going to be a problem. So,
yeah, Paul, you stated that that Bell took some years off Teron Johnson's life with the way that he was running up the middle.
Sure did.
And we seem the chat, you're looking at the chat as well as I am, and a lot of people are saying like 31-10, 35-10. Everyone's talking about, could Allen go over 300 yards this game? There's a lot of positive things coming out about the possibility of having a huge game against the Giants. What do you think? Let's just say you're Gettleman and you're Shermer and everything. What do you do? Just try to look at the other side of this. What do you do to try to beat the Bills this Sunday if you're the Giants?
I don't think that the approach the Jets had was really all that bad, right? No. Where you just bring your corners up, you try and disrupt routes as early as you can, you try and disrupt Allen's read of progressions, and then you just bring 4 to 5 guys. That's it, right? You just let everything else happen. If you're going to let Allen beat you deep, go ahead. Let him beat you deep. But a completion rate downfield is not exceptional. So let him try and beat you downfield. You need to get him off his initial read as quickly as you can. I think the way that Greg Williams had that look made a lot of sense early, right? Unfortunately, once he lost Mosley and the Bills realized that running the ball wasn't illegal, the game changed, right?
Yeah.
I see a different approach, upcoming for the Bills. But again, I don't think Greg Williams was wrong in the way that he wanted to approach trying to stop this Bills offense. Disrupt routes as early as you can, make Allen try and read around what's happening and bring enough pressure to make him uncomfortable. I thought that approach was very effective, very effective.
Now, if there's a team that the Bills could turn the ball over 4 times and possibly win, I think it's this one. Judging by what they have.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Jets did it, and I think the Giants are going to treat Allen. Not that I'm comparing the two of them, but you got to treat him the way this offense has been running. You got to treat him like he's Brady, right? You got to take away those quick timing routes across the middle, those little short dink and dunk passes that he'd like to throw to Beasley and to Brown a little bit early. And you've got to try to figure out a way to get him off his spot and let him move around. The problem is that he's pretty good on the move. So, if that offensive line can hold up and Allen, cannot bail earlier than he needs to bail, I mean, I think, it's going to be tough for them. But you try to handle him like you handle, a lot of these elite quarterbacks now, is that you try to throw off their timing. You try to jump those short routes, and you try to get him off his game with 4 to 5 rushers. You bring any more than that, he's going to slice you apart.
All right, Paul, I know you're getting a lot of activity in the chat, and I just wanted to kick it over to you. You're talking about Ed Oliver and being the key to stopping Barkley. What have you got from the chat coming in?
So a lot of people want to hear about Ed Oliver and kind of, our take on Ed's first game. Like John Roberts mentions, Ed did great, in my opinion. He'll have his first solo sack coming up. Let's see here. There was a lot more. Ed Oliver looked as good as advertised from Kevin Keeley. William Lang asking, if we can give a breakdown as to how Ed how that first game went. Personally, right, Ed Oliver changes his defense a lot because you saw a sprinkling of some different looks. We saw Ed play a true nose, which was different, right? Honestly, he outsnapped everybody. He played 65% of snaps. He played more than every other defensive tackle on the team. So they gave him a lot of look because his versatility. You can move him all over the place if you want. And I think they wanted to test the gas tank a little bit. And if I'm looking at stopping the interior, I'm expecting to see Starr get a little bit more run. He took 42% of the snaps, so I'm expecting Starr to get a little bit more run. But to be truthfully honest, Barkley is not an interior runner, right? That's not really his game. If you're going to see him running the interior, you're going to see him on draw plays. And I think you're hoping that Oliver can penetrate a little bit more and kind of bash that up. So I think Ed Oliver is a real interesting and intriguing player to look at going into this matchup because if he can penetrate that really porous offensive line and take the interior away from Barkley, that's going to wrap this game up a lot faster than maybe some people even think. But I'd love to hear what you guys think about that.
Yeah, Ryan, what is your take on? I'd like to hear what you thought about the rookie's first game.
Yeah, I think the comment that I'll have is if people think that Ed Oliver looked as good as advertised, he didn't. I mean, this kid's really raw. He looked great, don't get me wrong. But if he learns better technique and he starts to learn the game better, fans just wait to see what this kid can do, because that was the biggest knock on him, right, was because he wasn't in a Power 5 conference in college. He's never played against guys that are as big and as fast as him. He's finally doing that. And in his first game, there were certain plays where he was just, a man among boys. And that's scary to think about a guy that has been touted as undersized, throwing NFL offensive linemen around and using great technique and penetrating. I mean, there was a play that comes to mind where he penetrated. He was in the backfield so quick that he just ran right past Darnold, because I think he was so surprised that he was in the backfield that he just ran right past Darnold. When he learns that that's going to be the norm for him and he starts to get sacks out of those types of plays, I mean, he changes this defensive line's play similar to how Marcel Darius did it, because he's that good at penetrating. And to Paul's point, the way that Saquon Barkley runs is when he runs between the tackles, it's typically on those cutback routes, right? Where he's gonna start left, he's gonna cut back right, he's gonna start right, cut back left, and those are kind of like those those misdirection cutback runs that he's gonna play. If you've got Oliver that's gonna penetrate and blow up that cutback lane, I mean, Barkley's gonna have a lot of tackles for loss on Sunday, and especially when you've got two ends that are playing so well against the run, Shaq Lawson and Jerry Hughes. A guy in Oliver that's going to penetrate and is going to bring that type of pressure right into the face of Eli Manning and disrupt at the point of the handoff. It's going to be very difficult for them to play to Saquon's strengths. And to your point, Mario, they may have to split him out wide just to simply get the ball in his hands with some space to do something with it, because I think Oliver's going to be a problem, and he's becoming a problem a lot sooner than I thought he would, based on how he played in training camp. And that's not good for anybody in the NFL that has to play the Bills this year.
Yeah, Ryan, you and I talk a lot about, the game within a game. And I've talked about it with Paul every once in a while. Guys, if you need a break this weekend, if I could have a shameless plug really quick for Ryan and myself, we're going to be calling the Brockport Golden Eagles game this Saturday at Bob Boozer Field. It's going to be available to you on Facebook. You just go to RocSportsNetwork on Facebook. It'll be available there. You'll be able to hear Ryan and I do the play-by-play and color commentary. We both have pre-game, post-game, and halftime adjustments, just like everybody else. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going into year 2 of doing that, and I can't wait till Saturday to start doing that. It's going to be a lot of fun. But make sure to check out Rock Sports Network on Facebook for that. The thing about it, like what I was talking about with the game within a game, I always get a little scared about, because you look at the Jets and you look at the Giants, they're not very strong opponents. Now, if the Bills, who turned the ball over 4 times against the Jets and won, if they struggle offensively, maybe they have a couple turnovers early, but they come back and win. I just don't want that being the precedent that's set, that they think that they can come back from, if you're playing against Kansas City or you're playing against the Rams or anybody like that has a really elite level talent. I just worry about that sometimes because you're coming into this game. If fans are thinking that it's going to be an easy win for the Buffalo Bills, then those guys might be thinking, oh, hey, every game's tough. No one's else, they can give all the sound bites they want in the world about, hey, no one's giving us a shot. We got to come back. Micah Hyde was talking about that. But there has to be something to say, like, we're not playing the Patriots. We're not playing the Chiefs this week. We're not playing we're playing the Giants who just got blown out. This should be kind of like a bye week for us. Like, I mean, I want to get your take on this, Ryan, but I want to get Paul in here real quick on this. What do you think about that?
I was trolling the comment section, Mario. You should go to Ryan first for this one.
There we go. All right, let's do it.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the team knows that you can't turn the ball over and expect to win many football games, right? Because the one narrative that you hear all of this week about that Jets game has been how bad the Jets blew it. I mean, I listen to the national sports talk radio guys. Nobody's giving the Bills credit for that win. They're getting on the Jets for the loss and losing to a team that they really shouldn't have lost the game to. Anytime you force 4 turnovers, you're not supposed to lose that football game in any way, shape, or form. So, I think that there's going to be enough around the team and enough within the team to keep them grounded and know you can't turn the ball over multiple times and expect to win football games, especially when your own team doesn't force any turnovers as well. The defense didn't force any turnovers on Sunday, which they have to get better at, especially if the offense is going to struggle. But, again, we define struggle, Mario. I mean, if you don't have 4 turnovers on Sunday, you're not talking about this offense struggling. I mean, the offense was clicking on all cylinders. That opening drive was an absolutely beautiful opening drive. And that's one thing that Dable's been very good at in his time with Buffalo is the ability to script that opening series. And had it not been for Josh Allen trying to stiff arm and roll out of that sack, he hangs onto the football and you're coming away with at least a field goal there. You're not talking about this offense struggling. You're talking about this offense playing extremely well. And frankly, without the turnovers in the first half, you're probably not complaining too much that they're not running the football either because they were moving the ball until that point. So, they know that they can't turn the football over. I mean, that's from Pop Warner all the way up. You talk about you can't turn the ball over. So I'm not too worried about it becoming a precedent or becoming a pattern with them. Mm-hmm. If it becomes a pattern, the more thing you got to worry about is Josh Allen. How long can he keep that confidence level if he's going to turn the ball over 2-3 times every football game?
Paul?
Yeah. I got this one now. So typically speaking, right, the Bills have when everybody goes back to, remember when the Bills started 5-2, right? Everybody remembers that, right?
Oh,
Mara and I went through this a long time ago, just laughing about the fact that those games were very closely contested games, and the Bills had the turnover differential so ridiculously in their favor that as soon as the turnovers dried up, so did the winning, right? The difference here is that this offense does have the ability to put up points because there's enough talent on this offense to put up points. But the truth of the matter is you can never give up more than 2 turnovers in a game. Like that's it, right? Even if your defense isn't generating turnovers, which I imagine this defense is going to do at some point.
Yeah, and they were 16 NFL in it last year, so they'll get back to it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't, you just simply can't. You can't be giving another team 2 more turnovers than what you're getting, right? And of course, with Allen and the learning curve that you're going to have with him, that's going to happen, right? Turnovers are kind of par for the course with a young quarterback. This is just what you kind of have to take on the chin. But the reality is this defense is a really solid defense. And even if it doesn't pull up a lot of turnovers, it's not going to give up a lot of points. Like we look and we say the Bills scored 17 points and the Jets scored 16. Well, 16 points against was good for 7th in the league. If you keep your opponents to under 20 points a game, you should win 80% of those games in today's NFL. That's it. You scored 17 points. You're ranked in the 20s in the NFL, but you stopped and only gave up 16. You're ranked 7th. That just tells you the point differential that you see in victories and losses. It's a huge difference. If you can keep a team under 20 points, you should be winning those football games. We are getting a lot of questions in the chat about the offensive line and what kind of to expect. So I'll kick it to you guys while I grab everybody's feedback on that.
Okay, and you know what? I just want to just really quick before we get to the offensive line. I want to highly tout two things that both you guys just brought up that are huge factors and I don't think a lot of people are talking about or giving much credence to. Number one, it's the offense. Ryan said quality control, and Dable has been really good to script plays coming out of the half and going into a game. That's great. They were moving the ball. We can't forget that. They were moving the ball and they had unsightly turnovers. The other thing is you, Paul. This defense held the offense to 8 points. They only had 8 points.
Right.
So holding a team to 8 points while not turning the ball over, you don't get that smoke and mirrors like that 5-2 start that the Bills had the other time when they had like 15 turnovers in 6 games or something like that. You don't have that. This defense was able to hold a team to 8 points without getting a turnover. That's amazing in today's NFL, the way all the teams are built right now. So I just wanted to just basically highlight those 2 points that you guys said. But if we shift it over to the offense, I want to hit Ryan with the one comment that Paul brought it up. He likes starting this stuff with everybody, especially with me, because he knows about certain linemen and all this other stuff. He proposed, you got that thing going on with Ford and Naseki on the right side. You don't know who's really going to start, who's going to do this and that, X, Y, and Z. What is your opinion, Ryan, if the Bills decided to insert Naseki into the right tackle spot, move Ford down to guard, and possibly shift John Feliciano over to Quinton Spain's spot? I know he's been playing right and Spain's been playing left the entire camp, and they've been going like that. I just want to get your take on how would you feel about that move? Would you feel comfortable about it, or do you think that it's a move that does not need to be made yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're moving a guy from a position that he hasn't played all training camp and you're 2 games into the season and all of a sudden moving him to the other side of the offensive line, as experienced as he may be moving around in that interior of the offensive line, I don't think that's an ideal scenario. Mm-hmm. The Ford Naseki thing, I don't have a problem with it because they've kind of been flip-flopping all training camp. Naseki probably isn't quite 100% just yet, which is why they're trying to work him in a little bit. They're giving Ford the opportunity, and frankly, I thought it was a smart way to handle Ford. They sat him every 4th series. They sat him so they could coach him up during the offensive drive, which I think is a smart way to do it. You give him 3 drives, pull him off the field, you coach him up, you give him some pointers, you give him an opportunity to kind of observe and reflect a little bit on what he's done. You put him back out there for 3 more drives. I think it was a smart way for them to handle him. And ultimately they're going to do what they think is best for this offensive line. And the way that the offensive line played on Sunday, frankly, I'm going to trust that they know what they're doing with these guys and that they know what they've got in the talent. And I mean, don't get it lost in the way that the Jets played. That's a very good front 4 that the New York Jets have. Mm-hmm. You've got, I think, 3 first-round picks across that defensive front. That's a good defensive line. It's one of the better defensive lines, frankly, that they're going to face all season. And the pressure that Josh Allen faced or lack thereof, I think, is encouraging for fans because you knew that offensive line needed to get addressed in the offseason. And the question coming into the season was, did they do enough? Right now, I think they have. It's just a matter of everyone staying healthy and continuing to gel and finally finding a home for Cody Ford so you can find a home for the rest of that line as well.
Awesome. Paul, what do we got from #Nation coming in with all of this offensive line chatter?
I just want to point out that some people are agreeing that should be the offensive line. What I said, just to completely negate everything that Ryan just said.
Fair enough.
Well, you got Daniel Gary's with you now. He said Spain has been a constant at left guard. The coaches want him there.
Yeah, and listen, I get that, right? It was just a suggestion. It's just something that came to mind because Feliciano, and there's a lot of love for Feliciano in the chat. He's a lot more mobile, and it really came to light this game that I realized he was. I also want to welcome Joe from Believers Talk. Joe's going to be doing the play-by-play for you this Sunday of the the Giants and Bills game here on YouTube, also on Sportscaster. So he is going to be taking that over for us for the next few games, which I'm thrilled about. I love the fact that we've got a team here that's going to take care of that. Feliciano was kind of, I mean, you look at the chat and that's what you see. People are saying, why didn't he's the biggest surprise. William Lang says Feliciano's the biggest surprise. Seems so solid and versatile. John Roberts, dude, Feliciano's a monster out there. That dude knows how to throw hands. Kevin Healy, Feliciano was such a great steal. He looked awesome. And that's that's kind of what gets me, right? I don't think any move you can make removes him from the line, right? No. And that's where I'm kind of getting this, because you know that they want Cody Ford to play, but they also really love the veteran presence of Nsekhe on the corner of that line, and Nsekhe really looked pretty good. I was laughing about there was one play where I don't remember. I think it was a linebacker came in and jumped to try and bat a ball down, and Allen passed to the right side of the line. Nsekhe saw him just about to jump and just absolutely buries him, just pushes, buries him to the turf. And it's one of those things like Cody Ford wouldn't have seen that, right? But Ty Nsekhe's like, no, you can't fool me. I've seen this before. It was awesome. But, you know, Spain is a big guy. John Roberts mentioned Spain's a big guy to boss around. And I think in a power run scheme, Spain makes a lot of sense. But if you're trying to run this interior zone look, I don't think Spain moves as well as somebody like Feliciano or even Ford would be able to at this point. So that's why I'm kind of there. Spain, don't get me wrong, I really like Quinton Spain, really like him. But these inside zone concepts that the Bills want to run, I just don't think Spain's the best fit.
Yeah, you know what, Paul? I think you're pulling your punches a little bit, and I think we're going to indoctrinate Ryan to this. If you want Ford to play guard, and you want Nsekhe to play tackle, and you also want Feliciano to play.
Yeah, I know. Deion Dawkins to guard. Listen, we could have this conversation all day long.
No, you put it. No, there's two tackles on the line, Paul. There's two tackles. You want Ford to play tackle, and you want Nsekhe to play tackle. Yeah, put Nsekhe on the left side. I'm cool with that. We you know our infinity. For those of you that just started subscribing to #sports, we actually during the summer, Deion Dawkins actually followed our Twitter handle for about 20 hours and then unfollowed us.
You were really proud about that 20 hours.
It was the worst week for him to follow us because I was not kind. I was not kind with what I said about Deion Dawkins. It was the worst week for him to do that.
Oh God, it was brutal that week. I think we were just talking about the line. We were ranking him, and I think he was 6th in a couple of our polls. Like, it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think an important thing to keep in mind too for the fans out there. There is no indication whatsoever that this coaching staff wants Ford to play guard. I think they played him at guard out of necessity because he was really struggling at the right tackle position in practice. So they moved him inside to guard, I think, to build up that confidence a little bit. They're going to give every opportunity for him to be a right tackle. And if that means that Nsekhe just plays that, you know, that oft-used phrase, that swing tackle, which he really is a true swing tackle, you know, and he's a depth type of guy, leverage potentially into Deion Dawkins, you know, contract discussion down the line. It's possible there too. You know, Nsekhe's never been a starter, and he's, you know, older than most guys with his type of experience. So, you know, I don't think you can count on him being a starter specifically long term. Remember, he's only got a 2-year contract. They're going to give Ford every opportunity to be the right tackle, Dawkins every opportunity to be the left tackle, knowing that they've got Nsekhe that can step in if either one struggles or gets hurt. So that, I mean, you know, don't expect Nsekhe to start to get more snaps as the season goes on unless there's an injury. I think Ford's going to get every chance to be the every down guy.
Yeah, I think what you're looking for, and that's what the Bills are trying to do, is you're trying to look for some consistency at those positions. And Dawkins has been there 3 years now, so I mean he knows what to do. He's like the Trey White of the offense. He happens to struggle a little bit with speed. You know, when speed rushers try to come around that corner, Bills have seen that so many times with their left tackle. I mean, when we had Cordy Glenn, you weren't going to bull rush Cordy Glenn. You weren't going to do it. You just might as well just quit that play. But with speed rushers, he struggled a little bit, and then effectively when he was traded to the Bengals, they wanted to move him down to guard to put Jonah Williams at left tackle, and until Williams got hurt. So now Glenn's got to play left tackle, but they wanted to move him down to guard because that seems to be the natural transition with players now. You see cornerbacks move to safety, and then you see left tackles move down to guard. That happens all the time. I'm not a Dawkins hater. Stop it, #Nation. Stop
That's
it.
Me. That's me.
That would be Paul.
That's me. Let's not get those lines crossed. That is 100% me.
All right, Ryan, you had told us before. I know you're busy, man. We got to get you out of here. You told us before, if the Bills are in the middle of the pack after 4 weeks, that's going to be improvement. That's definitely going to be improvement, and they're gonna have winning some games if they're middle of the pack, and that's going to be great. What is your, if we could just take a microcosm of the Giants game, what do you need to see? And you probably already answered this. It's been a long broadcast and a long day. What do you need to see from the Bills' offense and defense to say, okay, I feel comfortable going into Week 3?
I need to see them repeat what they did against the Jets, minus the turnovers on the offensive side of the football. I mean, I don't think, again, I was one of the few people that after the first half, we did a show at 34 Rush with Drew from the Rock Power Report, Dan Borello, and Thurman Thomas joined us pregame and halftime too. And I was the only guy on the show that said, I'm not worried about the way this offense is playing right now. I mean, minus those 4 turnovers, and I tweeted it out on my second watch of the game. 3 of the 4 turnovers came either in field goal range or on the cusp of field goal range, where you think based on Hauschka's ability, they probably come away with points on 3 of those 4 turnovers. Mm-hmm. And the other one happened to be a pick 6. So, again, if they can do what they did against the Jets, against the Giants, minus the turnovers from Josh Allen, they're going to run away with this football game. I think Josh Allen's going to put up close to 300 yards if he can complete 64 to 65% of his passes like he did against the Jets. John Brown, I think, has a bigger game. I think look for them to challenge deep because the safeties for, the problem was that a lot of people saw the corners for the Jets as a weakness and the safeties as a strength. And it's, kind of vice versa. The whole secondary is a mess for the Giants. Safeties are no good. Look for them to take some shots deep, more so than they did. And I think look for them to try to get the tight end and the seam a little bit more involved than they did on Sunday. But other than that, I mean, they're going to lean a little bit more on the running game, I think, with Devin Singletary showing that he can play well. But, if they come away with, over 450 yards of total offense, a lot of people are saying 35 points. I'd like them to score more than 20 to start. I mean, before we start worrying about them scoring 30. They can put up 24 points, over 450 yards of offense and, 1 turnover instead of 4. I mean, that's a successful game. That's a game you probably win again. You're going to run away and hide against a team like the Giants if you can put that type of stat line up.
All right, Paul, what do you need to see Sunday to say, hey, all right, the Bills are going in the right direction here, to add to Ryan's point?
Well, okay. A couple things, right? So, couple things. First off, I was very concerned about. I'm very okay with having a second-year quarterback in their learning curve, right? I very much accept all the risks that come with that, right? I'm totally cool with that. But I think if you go back and watch the first 20 plays that Josh Allen ran last week, he is going to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, I made these checks. Were these the right checks? And I think he's going to realize that there were times that he checked out of stuff he shouldn't have been checking out of. Right.
Yeah, but I mean, Paul, I'm just sorry. I mean, but
no.
They were in field goal range until he tried to make something. I mean, Deion Dawkins got beat by like a drum on that play, and
sure.
Allen had no chance to react. They were in field goal range until that happened.
Sure.
I mean, you were watching that, and Allen looked sharp in that first drive. I mean, he legitimately looked the best he's looked in a Bills uniform. So I'm not sure how much he's going to come away and said, I wish I could have had this throwback or this throwback. I think, by and large, did he make the right decision every time? No, maybe because there were probably better plays downfield, but he can't be unhappy with the way that the play ultimately played out because he didn't have very many negative plays until that fumble.
Right, but what ended up happening was him checking out of every single run play. I mean, it caused a detrimental game planning issue down the field, right? As you went further into that game, you're 3 series in, you're like, Jesus, the Bills haven't run the football at all yet, right? So now when you come out in a real base look, you end up going with a heavy set and I formation, you play action, there was a pick that luckily gets called back, right? Like it's just, it came to a point where you're just like, okay, at some point the Bills are going to have to start running the football and they're going to have to start committing to the run. Like it just made them very one-dimensional. Sure. Which I think is the problem there. That's actually what I'm referencing. I wasn't referencing the production and moving the ball down the field. You could do that, but unfortunately, when you check out of 6 plays and you go from run plays to 6 consecutive pass plays, and then turns out to 18 consecutive pass plays, I think it was, like that's just bad management, right? And that's on him. But that all comes as part of that learning curve. Right. And as I said, I'm totally fine with accepting that. I'm going to touch on something that's in the chat a little bit. People are still talking about Zay Jones, right, being part of this offense. If Zay Jones can't get targets when your tight ends are basically irrelevant right now, then when is he going to get targets, right? Like, you guys not getting on the field enough, and he's not going to get enough looks. I do not look at Zay to be a very solid contributor to this team. And the further we get into the season, and once the tight ends, once Croft comes back, once Knox gets a bit more up to speed, Zay is going to become less and less of an important piece on this offense. So everybody's saying that Zay is going to be could be a major contributor. If he can't contribute right now, he's not going to, right? That's he and Foster are kind of in the same box to me. So as far as that's concerned, I need to see the Bills, establish that run. And if I could see them do that early, then I'm willing to take, whatever Allen's willing to give us as the game, dredges on. But, I'm excited to see what John Brown can do, although I don't have as high of hopes for him as I'm sure a lot of other Bills fans do. I'm just not a very big John Brown fan. That's me.
It's weird too, because the thing about one second. Yeah, the thing about that's going on, my opinion of what I want to see improvement with this Buffalo Bills team moving forward is, but that was one of my points I was going to make, is that I want to see Zay Jones get more involved in here. So you've seen the passes to Brown, you see the passes to Beasley. If the Bills are able to get Zay Jones involved in this offense, now you're giving defensive coordinators another thing to plan for. That's another thing they have to try to account for. Maybe you start throwing to the tight ends, even though, they've been severely underutilized. Then you start to give them more things to do. As far as the defensive side of the ball goes, the looks that Frazier was able to do and mix that up, I think that's what you do. You end up doing that against the Giants as well. You even put more things on tape for teams that you have to play that are very good at scheming against defenses. I think you give them more stuff to handle throughout the week. Although, and you may only intend to run your bread and butter plays on the defensive side of the ball and offensive side of the ball, but you're putting stuff on tape that they have to scout and they have to run in practice and they have to go through. So that's the one thing that I want to see. I want to see some stuff this game that it's not that it works or it doesn't work. I just want to see them put some more stuff on tape that other teams are going to have to scout for, mainly the New England Patriots. Yeah. So Ryan, we're nearing the end of our broadcast today. Like I said, I can every time you come on, I can't thank you enough for coming on and devoting your time to hashtag sports and everything that we're doing over here. And hashtag Nation, be sure to check out RocSportsNetwork. Ryan and Icy, they do a wonderful job over there. They cover the Buffalo Bills. They keep you informed. They do everything X, Y, and Z. Make sure you give him a follow. His Twitter handle is right below his name. Make sure you check out Ryan and myself this Saturday on Facebook on RocSportsNetwork, as we're going to be calling the Brockport Golden Eagles game at Bob Boozer Field at noon. Be sure to check out Joe from Believers Talk. He's going to be on our Sportscaster page calling the Buffalo Bills game this Sunday. We're going to give you our breakdown only exclusive to Sportscaster this Saturday at 8 a.m. Right. Paul, anything else that I may have missed?
Don't think so, Mark. I'm pretty sure that's everything. We got the post game on Sunday. Joe's doing the play-by-play on Sportscaster. And then we're going to be driving in the car this week, because after we're done with the post game, we go and cut the episodes for the week. So again, anything that you want, make sure you're hitting that hashtag Q&A during the post game, and we'll see if that's a topic that we're going to cover. But we're only going to cut a couple episodes after the post game for the week. So the schedule gets a little crazy, but we'll be back in the car this week. So that's Absolutely. Cool. It's been a while.
Yes, it's been too long. Ryan, any parting words for hashtag Nation before they make their way into the weekend?
No, always a pleasure to join. I mean, you guys have some of the best fans that are out there, so I really appreciate you guys Another item that Mario neglects to mention because he doesn't like to give me credit for it, but fantasy football advice. If you guys need anything, hit me on people you're getting advice on fantasy football. I'll be happy to help you out as much as I can. Icy and my show actually gets rolling. We did a show again on 34 Rush during the Jets game. We're at Thurman Thomas on, so go check that out on our Facebook page. Our show actually will start this week, our live show, which is Tuesdays at 5 p.m. So make sure you give us a follow on Facebook so you get notifications when our show goes live. And again, it's similar to these guys. It's just a little bit higher of a production value, as Gary likes to point out. But we got a fancy studio and all that good stuff. But put your comments in the chat as we're doing our show. We'll make sure we get throw some shout outs to you, answer questions, things like that. So really appreciate you guys having me as always. And, appreciate Hashtag Nation for giving me the follows that I see already popping up on my notifications on Twitter. So, always love it being out with you guys.
All right. For Paul and Ryan, Hashtag Nation, you guys have a good night. We'll see you this weekend.